Staff or committee if action is required. Please keep your comments to 3 minutes. I see one here is Mr. Thompson. He is here yet or whatever. And I apologize, I can't make out what your name is. Jim, okay. Would you like to speak now or?
I would.
Okay.
For 3 minutes. Make one additional presentation about widening the street. Now, I studied many years that wider streets create more traffic, less attended driving. Some of us at the corner have counted the number of cars that have gone by. They're up to 160 cars an hour, and between 15 and 50 children. Most of whom, drivers and children, are paying attention. From my side, I would say you don't want to create a place where your children have to watch out for themselves, or your grandchildren have to be aware that there's a big difference. What we're creating. Again, back from my side, having lived in no big city, you should fight the people you have. One of the things I was asked to hand you, when I handed it to you, my friend printed these out. He wanted to remind you what wider streets can create. Okay, you my time.
Is Bob planning on coming tonight?
Bob is
okay. Thank you. Thank you. We got one?
Yes.
You know street that's on? 3rd Street.
Yep.
Which I believe is near the, you're suggesting for that section.
That's actually
Actually,
back.
it's
Third.
Fifth Avenue, Fifth Street.
Sorry.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. Item 4, approval of the consent agenda. Second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Excuse me, new business. Proclamation 2026 National Public Works Week. I get to read. 2026 National Public Works Week proclamation. Whereas public works professionals focus on infrastructure, facilities, and services that are of vital importance to sustainable and resilient communities and to public health, high quality of life, and well-being of people of Village New Glarus. And whereas these infrastructure, facilities, and services cannot be provided without the dedicated efforts of public works professionals who are engineers, managers, employees at all levels of government and the private sector who are responsible for rebuilding, improving, and protecting our nation's transportation, water supply, and water treatment and solid waste systems. Public buildings and other structures and facilities essential for our citizens, and whereas it is in the public interest for the citizens, civil leaders, and the children in the Village of New Glarus to gain knowledge of and maintain an ongoing interest and understanding of the importance of public works and public works programs in their respective communities. And whereas the year of 2026 marks the 66th annual National Public Works Week, sponsored by the American Public Works Association. Be it now resolved, I, Roger Trutman, Village President, do hereby designate the week of May 17th through the 23rd, 2026 as National Public Works Week. I urge all citizens to join the representatives of the American Public Works Association and government agencies in activities, events, and ceremonies designed to pay tribute to our public works professionals, engineers, managers, and employees, and to recognize the substantial contribution they make to protecting our national health, safety, and advancing quality of life for all. Dated this 20th day of May, 2026. Roger Truffman, village president. Oh, really?
Yep.
Mr. McNabb. Thank you for your service.
Sorry, Amy. Okay. When we have a bigger order.
Still need to do my job, because Jeff wasn't here for this. Maybe you should just stamp and post it.
The auditor presenter is not here yet, so we will move down to item C. Consideration and discussion of R 2616, Department of Full-Time Police Officers, on page 21.
Yeah, so the resolution's included in your packet, and I'll let Chief Sturtevant talk for the majority of this agenda item, but this would be our fifth full-time officer, which would officially put us at full staff for the first time in a very long time. We're very excited, but I'll let Chief kind of give a little background on the candidate.
The candidate comes with a couple years of experience working with the police department. He's currently working up north at a different jurisdiction, and he wants to come back to his home area. He's originally from the Wilkerville area. But not with him numerous times. He's passed everything, and he's pretty excited to move back down here and work for the players. He's done some ride-along, some other stuff, and he really likes it here. So just coming to you guys to get the final approval to get it approved, and we'll get a start date. Tentatively, we're shooting right now for June 15th.
Was he at the EMS at fire station last night? No. He wasn't.
You'll notice the resolution says that the start date will be approved by Chief Sturtevant in June of 2026. For the reason we don't have that final start date, but we are shooting for June 2026. The officer will be on field training for 3 months, hopefully on his own by mid to end September, depending on his turn.
Jeff, what are the number of years that the other employees have been with you? Your oldest, and
The oldest would be Brian Bennett. He's been here now 2.5 years.
Maybe like about 3 years.
Yeah, he didn't play. Yeah, he was in both those three of them. Taylor was there 18 months. We just did last month, and then our last 18 months.
Yeah.
And then I've been here. And this will be the first time, knocking on wood. If he stays through his field training, nobody leaves. It'll be the first time I've been full staff in over 15 years. Wow.
Motion to approve resolution 2616.
Okay, any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, back up to item B. Presentation, consideration, discussion of 2025 financial audit.
Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. Flushing Winch's tanker out of the ditch. So, I do have some presentations for you if you guys would prefer. So thank you so much for having me, and thank you so much for your patience as I got here. So I am here to present to you the results of your 2025 financial statement audit. As the presentation makes its way around, you'll see the first page is just a quick agenda talking a little bit about the scope of the audit. Those of you that have been here before, this should be familiar. Those of you that are new, welcome, and I'm looking forward to talking audit with you all. I then get to present to you the results of the audit. However, just a couple of key financial highlights. As you know, you get more current information on a regular basis from your management team, but just a quick touch on the numbers, since that's what we spend most of our life on. And then I take a few minutes to just lift our eyes forward. I spend most of my life looking in the rearview mirror. I like to take just a couple of minutes to you guys, let you know what your team is looking at when it comes to audit standards. The audit report, as there's four outcomes that come to you. The first is the report on the financial statements. That's the most common one. If you're looking through your financial statements, that's towards the very beginning, the audit opinion. There's also an internal control or management letter that's at the very back of your financial statements. That's where we communicate any significant deficiencies or material weaknesses. Some audits do include a formal letter to management if we have any other recommendations. We do not have any of that letter here. You also had a letter to you with governance, which gives you more results of those audits, a little bit more details to you with governance. The fourth you'll receive later, that's your report on your federal and state, if you have them state grant audits as well. So that's getting kicked off now, you'll see that come through later. That's primarily related to the library grant this year. Moving on to the next page is just a little bit of a summary of the audit process. We do what's called a risk-based audit approach, which means we're not looking at every transaction, every invoice that your village goes through, but we're looking at your most significant classes of transactions that account policies. These are likely the ones that are already on your mind and already on your discussion table. That's where we spend the majority of our time. We do look at your internal controls to help us plan and design our audit procedures, but we do not issue an opinion on those internal controls. The scope of the procedures is not broad enough for us to do so, but it does help us inform the procedures, our design, and how much work we do in each area. We do bring to you any significant deficiencies or material weaknesses that are noted as part of the audit, and through our discussions with management, if there's any other best practices, suggestions, or strengthenings that we identify, we discuss with the management team as well. I want to highlight just a couple of these on here. One is revenue recognition. That's recognizing your taxes, your exchange transactions, your utility billing, and when you have them in the grants as well. Those are kind of your less common cycle transactions. We do spend a little bit of time with that, making sure that those are kind of in alignment with the standards and with recognition, being a little bit outside of maybe your normal transactions or having some of those unique, unusual type recognition criteria. And we also do look at your capital assets. That's another area where you guys have had a series of activities, probably on the mind, solar library addition, the utility projects that have been going on. Those are a couple of areas that we do spend some time on. If we turn to the next page, page 5, I am happy to bring to you that we issued an unmodified opinion, or what's commonly referred to as a clean opinion in the industry. That's the highest level of assurance I can provide you with your auditor. The financial statements are free of material misstatement and presented in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles. This is similar to what we've received in the past, kind of that gold standard of audit opinion. So happy to bring that for you again. We do have one material weakness and one significant deficiency that we're bringing forward. I'll touch on those a little bit in a minute. This is similar to what you received in the past. So not a lot has changed here. And as I mentioned, the federal single audit is kicking off and in process. We don't have anything to report at this time. If we do, we'll let you know and keep management in the loop as we complete that testing. Moving on to page 6, to give a little more detail on these two findings we have. The one is the segregation of duties. That's a significant deficiency, just indicating due to the small size of your village and the team that you have with those financials, the cross training that you guys utilize to ensure effective and efficient operations. It's something less than ideal, so bring this forward to you just as kind of a reminder as governance to kind of keep your eyes on those things as well. This is very similar to what you've seen in the past and what you will find at organizations of similar sizes. The other one is the recognition that we do assist with the preparation of the financial statements. Your management team kind of keeps those day-to-day, week-to-week operations and statements running, and we provide some assistance kind of getting those up into that annual statement, some of those unique features that come with those final full accrual statements.
Shannon, can you just touch on the segregation of duties that we talked about this in the past, with the faces in the room? Really, the only way to solve something like this is to add more staff.
Correct. Okay. Yep, that would be either add more staff or if you have somebody who really likes to get involved in the day-to-day type of thing. But yeah, having an extra set of hands is really the only way to completely mitigate that risk. Turning on to your governance communications, these are a few more highlights from the results of the audit. You're going to see a lot of no, none, and nothing in here, which is all good news for me. The less I talk to you, the happier you probably all are. Not that I don't love spending time, but there's no changes to accounting standards that impact your statements this year. There was one new accounting standard. It's mostly disclosure-based. It had no impact for the village. It has to do primarily with revenue constraints when a triggering event occurs. So think a major taxpayer would leave the village. That would indicate that there may be an additional Your significant accounting policies are in note 1 of your financial statements. They give you some context and some framework for how those numbers are measured and come in front of you. We have no transactions without guidance, no unusual transactions, no difficulties with management, no consultations with other auditors, no communications outside the scope of the audit, and no particularly sensitive estimates or disclosures. Nothing. Attached to that letter to you will be the listing of the journal entries that we assist with throughout the audit process. Some of those you'll see are marked with a note of PBC, which is provided by clients. They're included in there so that you have them and so that your management team has them, so we don't have any duplication or cross-training. But anything you see marked that way is stuff that your team identified and brought to us after we had that initial trial. You'll see I've highlighted just a couple of them related to some utility capital assets, moving those around, getting those in the right place, related to the grants and the clean water fund loan, and then some of the revenue rectification, some of the things with the grants, and then the other capital asset related item is getting all of the put together related to those grant capital assets. So kind of those unusual transactions is where we kind of give a little bit of assistance, or things kind of right at that end of the year. If you're waiting for contractors to bill you and they don't bill you until later in the year, those are some of those things that might come up through the audit. Now I just take just a couple of minutes and highlight just a few numbers in your financial statements. If you move forward to page 9, you'll see just a visual representation of where your revenues come from in the general fund or your governmental funds and what they're used for. If you compare this pie chart to what you've seen in the past, you'll see the biggest shift is you have more percentage in the intergovernmental revenues, that's the orange section on the left, and more in the capital outlays, which is the dark blue section on the right. Those two are related. Those are the libraries. I feel like this is probably a common trend, but you'll hear it throughout. But that's the shift that you see if you're comparing this to in the past. Normally, those two pie pieces are significantly smaller, and they do move together. Beyond that, you'll see your primary revenue source is taxes in the governmental funds. These are your non-utility aspirations. Your utility is primarily utility. And then you'll see general government, public safety, public works, and then debt service for the rest of the money. So while this looks a little bit shifted this year, that is that primary shift from what you've seen historically. Moving on to page 10 is your general fund balance. This is what's left. This takes all your assets, pays all your debt. This is what's left. It's really split into 3 parts. One is non-spendable, that's your prepaid. So it's money that's already been spent. Then you have your unassigned minimum fund balance portion. That's the part that the village has identified for specific purposes. That green portion is really what's left for day-to-day cash flow throughout the year, unexpected items, planning for future purposes. So you don't want to bring that all the way down to 0 because we do with no cash flow, but that is what you have left. Recommendation from Government Finance Officers Association is start with something about 3 months of your budget and work from there for what your village needs. So that is a reserve balance. As a starting point, adjust for your own cash flows, your own unexpected needs, and what's the comfort level of the village. But if you're looking for moving on to page 11 is a high-level summary of your utility operations throughout the year. You have your operating revenues, primarily your billings. Your operating expenses are those directly related expenses. Your non-operating are all kinds of the other things. So things, interest on debt, any other ancillary billings or expenses. Your capital contributions, impact fees, contributions from outside parties. Your net transfers, that's coming over the village, that's your payment in lieu of taxes. The utilities don't have to pay taxes, they pay a payment in lieu of taxes. And with that, to bring parity there. That PSC rate of return, if you've been following along from last year, that's much better than it was last year. You're seeing the impacts of the rate case and the hard work that your team put in to implement that rate case at the beginning of the year. So that rate of return is moving back to more of a normal level. That takes me through kind of our retrospective look. I could take just a couple of minutes and look forward now. GASB 102 is the GASB statement that was effective for the current year. That's the one that has minimal impact on the village. If you have certain circumstances that would limit or constrain your revenue going forward, that may result in some disclosures. Not significantly different, it just gives you a more formal framework. The next couple of standards, GASB 103, will have the biggest impact on your utility statements and your management discussion and analysis, which is that first part of your statement that gives some context to the numbers. They're updating that to create more consistency. Your utility statements, so the numbers will move around a little bit. They don't change how they're measured, it just changes the organization. So work with your management team to make sure that those are presented there, and with your management team for updating that management discussion analysis. Its focus is to provide some additional clarity and context for you. Beyond that, there is some additional disclosures related to certain capital assets, kind of closing some loopholes on some standards that have come out. They have a lot of questions that come out. Same with that 2025 implementation guide. If GASB, the standard setting body, is the same question multiple times, they'll issue normal guidance so that everyone's treating it the same way. That's really what you're seeing with those implementations. So nothing that has significant impact on utilities or on the village. And then your GASB 105 is subsequent events, again, adding some framework, answering the questions, when do we include a subsequent event, when do we not, and what all do we need to include in that. So just giving some consistency for the industry. Moving forward is some questions, and my contact information is on page 19. I am happy to answer any questions on the audit that I can this evening. If you think about them later or just have accounting questions, you're always welcome to call me, email me, talking accounting, or
So what type of staff person would we have to hire in order to segregate duties?
You have to hire someone with sufficient accounting knowledge to be able to kind of be that cross-check to the individuals that you have here. So you want someone with sufficient accounting knowledge and experience to be able to evaluate the transactions and raise good, reasonable questions on those, and be comfortable raising those questions.
Do you have any idea what ballpark figure would be for salary for something like that?
I don't off the top of my head. That would be something that you kind of have to design your job duties and outlines before you could identify that kind of transaction, and whether you would want them full-time and part-time. There's a lot of variables in there, unfortunately. So.
And you said unassigned fund balance
Yep.
should be recommend 3 months. Do we have 3 months?
Yes, you do. You have it. That's kind of the starting point. Some prefer more. I've seen as much as 6 to 9 months as their preference. I've seen some go less. It's kind of the starting point if you're looking for where do we start when we're setting our comfort level.
You know what ours is? Is ours between 6 and 9?
And I don't comprehend. I believe
You
It's, the tricky thing with identifying 3 months of expenses for municipalities is every 3 months is a little different. And Shannon can speak to this too. What I can tell you from based on this audit, but also the previous audits I've been part of, the Village of New Glarus is in a strong financial position in terms of being good stewards of tax dollars. We do have savings that if an emergency would occur, we have those funds available. I would also add that the village board allowing myself and the previous administrator and now Amy to invest those funds into safe investments has also created more revenue for us. And that's been a really nice asset to have. So the number that you see here is more than 3 months for sure. Depending on how many months it is, it really depends on what time of year it is.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
And I was just gonna point out that that's been a deficiency in the decades we've been on the board. That's always been the case, but would you say that, it's more common in small municipalities? Is this a common, expenditures are strained and?
Right. It's a very common finding for small to mid-sized municipalities, especially as you look to keep that efficiency, with being able to provide the services to anyone who walks in, and when people vacation, trips, and stuff like that, having that, some of it is not only what are they doing, but what can they do within the system. So keeping that, it's a very common finding.
I believe our school district has kind of the same thing. There isn't a double check on all the finances because we also are too small to have someone checking their financials.
And what I would say too is within our office, between myself, Amy, and Sherry and Beth, we have internal process that every single financial transaction is viewed by at least 2 people. But in this case, there'd be, I think, probably multiple, for some of these procedures, multiple staff members, required in addition to what we already have, so,
And we go over the invoices every twice a month.
yeah, we read every invoice with every check.
So we read through and we ask questions if we don't know what it is.
Yeah, small office is certainly a challenge when it comes to having the ideal segregation of duties when it comes to finances. So we do the best that we can with what we
I
have.
think. Thank you. Anybody else have any questions of Shannon?
Then I will finish with a thank you. I want to thank your management team. We are a heavy lift on top of their already very full day job, especially when they come right into the audit process. So we do appreciate the hard work. They make priority, their records are in order, they're available for us to work through. We do appreciate their support and we work through that process.
This is Amy's first official audit with the Village of New Blair. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks, Shannon.
Okay, moving on, item D, consideration discussion R 26-17, appointment of lifeguards, water safety instructors, and field supervisors for the 2026 season.
Yeah, there's a resolution included in your packet. This is something that we approve every single year. The only difference is some of the names that are listed on here this year. The pay stays the same as last year. The certified pool operator is the same. So really, like I said, names are really the only difference. So we have a list of full-time, part-time, and substitute guards.
Motion to approve resolution R 26-17.
Okay. Any questions or discussions on this? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, motion carries. Okay, any discussion with possible consideration of the library project update?
So as of last Thursday, the library is closed at our location. This week, we have moved all of the contents that were moving over from this library to the new library. New shelving going today, the rest of the furniture goes tomorrow. Unpacking, taking care of technology, little glitches, getting grand opening as well.
And this is a good opportunity to remind everybody of the grand opening on June 4th. We're going to start with a ceremonial book pass at 4 o'clock. Amy, can you explain what that means? More for the public. We're not actually passing all of the books that we have in the library, because that has been asked.
Right. A lot of the community have requested that we do something like that. We are taking about 50 books. We're going to pass them from Village Hall to the new library. It's just a way to celebrate. So if you want to participate in that, we have to leave at 4 o'clock. Erica and crew will give you instructions, and we'll move over to the library for the 5 o'clock ribbon cutting celebration.
And we do have the ribbon and we do have big photos for it.
So we hope everybody can join us. We're really excited. This is really a long time coming. And we closed down the street in front of the library on 5th Avenue there to accommodate a large crowd. So we're really excited, really proud of our staff, especially our library staff, all the work they put in. Just really grateful to everyone that helped get this to where it's at.
I get nothing but absolutely great comments about it. Everybody likes the looks of it. They're happy with the location, because it's downtown. So,
I don't know, say a nice one from you.
only you, John.
If you want to hold, you can hit on front.
Thank you, lady. Okay, moving down to personal and finance, consideration discussion, staff per diem rates for meals, page 24. Chelsea?
Yeah, so there is a memo included in your packet. This was just discussed by the Personnel and Finance Committee. They recommended the village board approve the Madison-Dane County rates to increase the meal per diem. Just a little background on this, our current language on staff meal reimbursement when they travel, whether it be conferences or if our police department has to take a patient to a facility and it turns into a 16-hour day for them. The current language says that we follow state meal reimbursement guidelines. They are fairly low. I've listed them there. $11 for breakfast, $13 for lunch, and $24 for dinner. On the mileage side, we follow the IRS federal rate for mileage. So staff discussed and thought it made sense to propose to the Finance and Personnel Committee and the board to match the meal reimbursement rate with the federal rate as well. So the federal rate for Wisconsin and locations not specified is 16 for breakfast, 19 for lunch, and 28 for dinner. Specifically in Madison and Dane County, the rates are 20 for breakfast, 22 for lunch, and 33 for dinner. The Personnel and Finance Committee recommended approving the Madison-Dane County rates of 20, 22, and 33. I would say we have an employee claim per diem maybe once a month. It's not often, but when it does happen, it's usually half of what is actually spent on the meal. Meals are so expensive.
I move that we change from the state rate to the Madison Dane County rate of 20 for breakfast, 22 lunch, and 33 dinner.
Okay. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Item B, consideration discussion police department shift coverage, page 26. Chelsea?
Yeah, so there's a memo in your packet regarding police department shift coverage. This is something that you've all seen before. A little different this time because we have an exciting outcome. We, as you all just did, approved hiring our 5th officer, which is very exciting for us. But one thing to note is that 5th officer is not on his own in terms of being able to go on patrol until his field training is completed, and that's a minimum of 3 months. So he'll be doing 3 months of field training at the start date, most likely mid-June, hopefully, which will put him off of field training mid-September. In the memo, I discussed extending Chief's 30 hours per month of straight time for shift coverage through the end of September to cover that gap in the scheduling, if you will. The one thing that is a little different this time than previous times is even though the 5th officer is not able to go on his own, we still have to pay him his full salary. But because we've been short-staffed for, it will be 5 months of this year, we've saved enough to cover Chief's potential 30 hours. And as Chief noted in the Finance and Personnel Committee, he doesn't always use those 30 hours every month. It really just depends. Chief, did I miss anything? Finance and Personnel Committee recommended approval as listed, 30 extra hours a month through the end of September. At straight time.
Jeff did say that, people going on vacation, through the summer months, so we have to cover some shifts for going on vacation, whatever, so.
And Chief and I had this discussion, and we're on the understanding that when the 5th officer is on his own, this is when that comes to an end, but this has been a way that we're able to fill that vacancy, so.
So when the fully staffed, say mid-September or whatever, then what happens when they take vacation?
I mean, usually the way the schedule is, we might have a couple on, so that'll cover it, or we'll use part-timers. It's just, we're still short a part-time position too, and I gotta watch 2 of my officers, time and how much they work, because they're only allowed so many hours by state. Or affects their retirement, or if we get too high on their hours, then the village has to pay into their retirement, and we want to avoid that. Once that starts, we have to do it moving forward.
And it does list in the memo that Chief will offer these straight time hours to part-time staff first to see if he can fill them, because that would be the cheaper option. But as you just heard, we are short 1 part-time staff member as well, so it doesn't always work out.
And it's also a burden when we have, bigger calls or other things too. We have 2 on, just like last night, we had something like called in, and we don't have another officer to help with that right now either.
Motion to approve the 30 extra hours for Chief Certified.
Per month through September?
Yes.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. There's no president's report. Is there anything else from the board?
I move to adjourn.
Perfect. I haven't finished my supper. We need a second.
I second.
Okay, all in favor, say aye. Aye. We are adjourned.